Hi guys, I'm Hazel from The Food Medic, and today I'm doing a Facebook Live with Holland and Barrett. So for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm a doctor and I'm a personal trainer and a health and fitness blogger, and I'm also an author. So last year I brought out my first book called The Food Medic, and this year I'm bringing out my next book, The Food Medic for Life. And today I'm going to give you a sneak peek recipe from the book. And this is all to celebrate Heart Health Month, which Holland and Barrett are celebrating. So I'm going to be cooking the recipe, but we're also giving away a really great hamper as well, full of goodies which support heart health. But to jump into the recipe, and I want to show you what I'm going to be using so that maybe you have these ingredients at home. First of all, I'm going to have some porridge oats. Now, the reason these are really good for your heart is because they've got a special type of fibre in them called beta-glucan, which has been proven to reduce your blood cholesterol, but they're also really great. I also have some pine nuts, some green pesto. I've got some basil and oregano. I'm using oat milk, but you can use whatever milk you have or water. Some sun-dried tomatoes, olive oil, which is really, really great for your heart. Some flaxseed, which is also, it's full of omega-3s, and it's also full of fibre. And I've got some courgette, some parmesan, some fresh basil, and I'm going to top the porridge with some eggs. Well, just an egg. So if you are vegan, you can do this recipe without the egg and leave out the cheese as well, and that would make it completely vegan. The reason I'm using the egg is because it's full of healthy fats. It's also full of protein and vitamin B12, so it's really, really great for you. But you can just sprinkle on a little extra flaxseed, which is also full of omega-3s. So to jump into it, first of all, I'm going to add 40 grams of oats to a saucepan. I'm going to guesstimate here. So about half a cup. And I'm going to grate half of this courgette. Now, whilst I'm cooking, make sure to just ask your questions, pop them in the comments below, and I'll answer them throughout. So we're just going to put half of this in here. I didn't even give you the title of the recipe, so we're making a savoury porridge, which I know is a bit unusual for some people because I think we classically know porridge as something that's quite sweet. And it's quite a funny story actually. When I came up with this recipe, I just came in quite late for lunch and I had nothing in the fridge or the cupboards, and I just kind of threw all of this together and it worked really well. It's almost like a risotto except less time consuming, less fancy, but tastes just as good. So I've just popped the oats and the courgette into the saucepan, and I'm going to add some herbs. So I'm using dried herbs, just a 1/4 teaspoon of each, basil and oregano. There we go, I love that smell. I'm going to add 200 mils of milk, so I'm using oat milk today. There we go. Now to pop this on the heat. So you just want to cook this over a low to medium heat. You can do this in the microwave if you want. There we go. I'm just going to pop that there and get my spoon and give that a stir. So we're going to cook this now until all the flavours kind of sink into the oats. And we're using jumbo oats, and they're actually, the bigger the oat, the better they are for your heart and for your overall health. Oats are also full of fibre, so they're really good for your gut health. I know we're talking about our heart health today, but they're, in general, a really great food. I don't like to use the term superfood, but they are a really good staple to have in your cupboard. So just pop that there and let that cook for a little bit. And while that is cooking, I'm just going to grate my parmesan. Again, you can leave the parmesan out, or you could add a different type of cheese if you want to use goat's cheese, feta. A crumbled feta will be really, really good in this. So I'm going to use about a tablespoon, which is good. And that smells amazing. So just making sure this is bubbling nicely. And for anyone who's concerned about tasting the courgette, you don't. It actually just adds, a different texture to the whole dish. And like I said, it almost feels like you're having a risotto. And it adds more fibre and more phytonutrients, which are chemicals in plants that confer loads of benefits, full of antioxidants. There we go. So that's just nicely simmering. I'm just going to turn the heat up so it absorbs all of the milk. There we go. Now, I'm just going to pop that to the side. Like I said, I'm going to add some sun-dried tomatoes, so about 2 to 3. I love these flavors together. It's almost like Italian style flavors, but this type of dish can be really versatile. You could even make an Asian style version of it and maybe do some miso porridge. Again, the egg would work really great in this. So whilst that's just finishing off, I'm just going to chop up these nice and finely. If you don't have sun-dried tomatoes, you can just use normal tomatoes. Cherry tomatoes, just blister them on the pan with a little bit of olive oil. That would be really nice in this. So I'm just going to toss them in there. My hands. There we go. So now we can just see that the liquid is all absorbed and it's looking really delicious. I'm just going to sprinkle some salt and pepper in there and a little bit of pepper. Now, I'm going to turn that off while I pop my frying pan onto the heat so I can cook the egg. That will stay warm in there. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So just pop that on there. I'm going to use olive oil today. Olive oil is really, really great for your health. If you've heard about the Mediterranean diet, it's full of healthy fats like olive oil, oily fish, and also loads of fruits and vegetables and whole grains and legumes. And we know that that is really, really beneficial for our heart, also our overall health, like I said before. So I'm just going to let that get nice and hot and then drizzle some oil in the pan. There we go. While that's heating up, I'm just going to toss in a tablespoon of Parmesan into here. You can add more if you want. This recipe serves 1. So you can double up if you're cooking for more. You can also have it cold the next day if you want to keep it and bring it to work with you. Also, a great addition to this is mushrooms, which I love. Garlic mushrooms, really, really good. So that's getting nice and hot. I'm going to crack my egg in there now. Okie dokie. So if you want to leave the egg out, you could add maybe some tofu to get some more protein in there, or you can just leave it out completely, and it's quite a filling dish on its own. But like I said, the egg just adds a little bit more protein, some healthy fats, and I love a runny egg on the porridge as well. So whilst that is cooking, I'm just going to serve this bit up. So just spoon it into your bowl. Again, guys, if you have any questions, just make sure to pop them in the comment section below and I'll answer them afterwards. And also, to win the prize, to win the big hamper behind me, which is full of goodies, all you have to do is ask a question. So it's really, really easy to get involved. Great. So that's just cooking there. Now, and on top of this, I'm going to obviously put the egg, but we also have some pine nuts, and that just kind of adds to the whole flavour of the dish. They're also full of good fats and protein as well. A tablespoon of them, and I also have some fresh basil, which is great. But again, if you don't have fresh, you can use dried. Makes no difference. So it's just cooking nicely. A little bit of pancetta on the dish would be really good as well. I'm just kind of throwing out ideas. I'm thinking as I cook. And like I said, this is a recipe that I just came up with when I was really hungry, wanted to make something that was really nourishing but also quick to make. And it just goes to show you don't really need to spend a lot of money on ingredients. You don't need a whole lot of ingredients to make a really good recipe. And you don't need to be amazing in the kitchen as well. There we go. I'm just going to turn that down. I don't know about you guys, but I like my eggs slightly runny. So for me, that would be almost done. You could also poach the egg if you wanted. There we go. I'm just going to cut that bit off. Now. So. Pop that off. I'm going to put that to the side. My egg looks a bit funny, but hey ho. And a sprinkle of pine nuts. They're really just really gorgeous and add so much to the dish in salads and in everything. I always have just like a selection of nuts in my pantry to just kind of add to anything. Also makes it look a lot better. You can tear these or chop them. I'm just going to tear it on top. So this is my fresh basil. There we go. A little bit more pepper. And that, my friends, is my savoury courgette, sun-dried tomato, and pesto porridge. So I'm going to just try it, because I have to, and it looks yum. I'll let you guys know what it's like. It's really good. Really good. So I challenge you to try that at home. Now I'm going to take any questions, if there's any questions, before wrapping up.
So we have had questions flying in. Hazel, I've got a question from Liz. What are your 3 top tips when it comes to diet choices and maintaining a healthy heart? The porridge looks delish! !
Thank you so much, Liz. My 3 top tips for a healthy diet and generally having a healthy heart. When it comes to our heart health, I'd say the kind of top 3 things I would say is kind of diet, nutrition, and then like our lifestyle. So in terms of diet, the foods that we know that are really good for your heart are foods that are high in fibre. So that would be whole grains, legumes like lentils, chickpeas, healthy fats, so olive oil, eggs, oily fish, nuts and seeds, flaxseed, all of those kind of foods. Diet aside, staying active. So physical activity is so important for your heart health and for overall health. So if you can just move a little bit every day, whether it's 20 minutes at home doing a workout or just getting off the tube a little bit earlier. And lastly, the most important thing, which I feel like we kind of forget about, is to make sure that you're not smoking. And smoking is something that's really bad for our health and I guess our heart as well. So that would be my 3 kind of main things to focus on.
I've got a question from Emma Galloway. What are your staple ingredients for the cupboard?
Okay, great. I love this question because I actually go over this in my new book. I have my 5 store cupboard staples, which I think I actually have 50 different recipes you can make with these 5 staple ingredients. One of them is oats. I think oats are so versatile. You've just seen me make a savoury dish, but you can also use them in sweet dishes, use them in meatballs and burgers, so many different things, even in baking. Eggs, I think, are also a really great healthy food to have in your diet. Really versatile, really cheap, and really easy to find. So that will be oats, eggs. Lentils are a great thing to have in your store cupboard. You can buy them dry. You can get them in little pouches that you just pop in the microwave, which are a lifesaver, especially for me when I'm working long hours. They're full of protein, full of fibre, and really versatile again. In addition to that, I would say things like having sweet potatoes or normal potatoes, because you can just cook them in loads of different ways. You can add them to a casserole, you can bake them in the oven, you can make fries out of them. I love to eat them cold, so I tend to bake up loads on a Sunday and separate them out for the week into lunch boxes. So they would be my main things. I also have loads of frozen foods in my freezer, whether it's berries or vegetables, to just grab those times when you get home and you're like, oh, I don't really have any fruits and vegetables. So I would say just make sure you've got kind of like something stocked up in your freezer as well.
Got a question from Samantha Bolter. As well as eating healthy, balanced diets, do you recommend any additional supplements alongside?
I don't. I think in the UK we should all be taking a vitamin D supplement in the winter months because that is what's recommended by the government. We don't get enough sun, and as we know, we make vitamin D from the sun. So regardless of your diet, you should be taking vitamin D supplements. If you do, however, have a dietary requirement, if you're vegan, for example, then you do need to take supplements. One supplement in particular would be vitamin B12, which you can't get from non-animal foods. So that's something to be really aware of if you're not having enough meat or dairy products in your diet. But other than that, if you have like a balanced diet, you should be fine.
Lovely. I've got a question from Catherine Kaur. Can you eat too many healthy fats? Is an avocado a day too much?
You can eat too much fat, so you have to kind of look at your diet as an overall kind of percentage. What's recommended is that we have 30% of our diet, our daily intake should be fat, and most of that should come from healthy fat sources, which we call unsaturated fats. So that's like our olive oils, our nuts, our seeds, and less so from meat sources and dairy sources. But to say that, it's very, very difficult to know yourself, when you're eyeballing how much you're having. I would say for a portion, half an avocado would be kind of the standard portion, but it depends on how hungry you are. Every day is very different, so I don't like to give people exact portion sizes. You can't really have, I guess, when it comes to healthy fats, it's good that you're choosing them over less healthy choices. Avocado is a great food to have in your diet, but maybe for one meal, try half an avocado. If you're still hungry, maybe add in some fruits and vegetables instead, some whole grains. Try and mix up your diet a bit.
I have a question from Daisy. Hazel, you're such an inspiration. How did it feel winning Wellness Blogger of the Year earlier this month?
Thank you very much. It was such a surprise to win Wellness Blog of the Year. I was so happy because last year I really made a huge promise to myself to put so much time and effort into the blog. I've got really great contributors on there, so it's not just me writing articles. We've got other doctors, personal trainers, health coaches, so much topics we cover. I also have so many recipes up there and workouts. So to be acknowledged was just a huge thank you. So thank you to everyone who's supported the blog for the past year or so.
Got a question from Catherine Edgar. Does the oat milk have any healthy heart benefits?
So in terms of oat milk, the reason that I've used it is because it's non-dairy, so we're using that today. But compared to dairy milk, it's not a huge amount of benefits. It really comes down to personal preference. Plant-based foods in general are really good for your heart. So I always encourage people to try to get as many plants into their diet, and whether that's through like their milk or through fruits and vegetables, then you're doing a good job. The one thing to note about plant-based foods is to make sure, plant-based milk, sorry, is to make sure that they're fortified, which most plant-based milks are nowadays. But the difference between, say, oat milk and dairy milk is that it is lacking in certain nutrients when it's just made. But like I said, on the carton you can read that it's fortified with all the essential nutrients that you need.
Jade Rice wants to know, what are the best healthy snacks to have that will curb the junk food craving?
I would say, again, and I feel like I'm kind of like a broken record going back here, but basing your snacks around fruits and vegetables. So whether that's kind of having like crudité, like chopped up carrots, you don't need to buy the chopped carrots, just buy a bag of carrots that literally costs 70p, chop them up into carrot sticks, make some hummus with it. Hummus is the easiest thing you can make. All you need is tahini, which is a seed paste, a little bit of garlic, a little bit of olive oil and chickpeas, and season it. Just blend it up in a NutriBullet. It's so easy to make. That's one of my favorite ones. Sometimes I have the hummus with carrot sticks, or I'll have it with oat cakes. Again, you can make oat cakes yourself. I've got a recipe in my new book. Or you can just pick them up in Holland or Barrett or anywhere. Other than that, I love making my own kind of little energy balls. Again, I'm using oats for them. All you need is oats, honey, peanut butter, and maybe like a little bit of chocolate. Add them in equal amounts and you'll be able to make little balls. You can put them in the fridge and take them with you to work. They would be kind of like my top snacks.
So I've got a question from Jourdain Bowl. Apologies if that is not pronounced correctly. What are your top tips for heart health and your top foods for heart health?
Okay, so I think we covered the top tips, and like I said, it comes down to like diet, nutrition, and lifestyle. So making sure that your diet is full of fruits and vegetables and whole grains, those fiber-rich foods, but also healthy fats like olive oil, nuts, seeds, oily fish. When it comes to staying active, just making sure you're moving as much as you can every day. It doesn't have to be really, really intense, whether it's just getting up and walking, a little bit further to work, or doing a home workout, or maybe going to the gym, whatever suits you. And again, your lifestyle, so trying to manage your stress, trying to cut down on alcohol and not smoking. Top foods for your heart health, oats are such a huge staple ingredient you should have in your diet, because we know that there's a certain type of fiber in there, like I mentioned earlier, called beta-glucan, and that can reduce your cholesterol. So 3 grams of that a day is actually really good for your heart health. And other than that, really good oils like olive oil and nuts and seeds, things like that.
So we've got one from Audra Blah. Is there a healthy way to stop getting heartburn, or at least a way to treat it?
To get
heartburn.
Heartburn is very multifactorial, so it's not something that I personally would feel comfortable kind of giving out advice to it, just such a blanket statement. But it could be the way you're sleeping, it could be the foods that you're having, whether you're having really like high caffeinated, high sugar, high fatty foods. It could be down to stress, or it could be down to another reason. So if you are suffering from it and you find that it's nothing to do with your diet or the way you're sleeping, whether it's at night or in the morning, I would advise that you go see your GP and kind of get them to look at your symptoms and have a little think about what might be causing the problems.
Great stuff. Are we going for another question? Another question from Catherine Cole. Do you recommend probiotics?
The evidence for, so if you didn't hear that question, was do you recommend probiotics? And the evidence that's out there now, for a healthy individual, probiotics aren't recommended. The evidence isn't there. To say that though, they don't seem to cause any harm. So if you want to take a probiotic, by all means do. What there is evidence for is probiotics and certain gut conditions, so irritable bowel syndrome or IBS, that a lot of people suffer from nowadays. The evidence shows that probiotics can actually be beneficial in helping the symptoms. So I definitely think we need more research behind it, but I think it's a really exciting area at the moment.
And one more question from Angela L. Paul. My skin is just really, really dry over the winter. Is there anything that you can suggest I can do with my diet to help from within?
So in terms of skin health, diet is like, the evidence isn't very strong, but healthy fats. So vitamin E is really, really good for your skin, which you can find in like nuts and seeds, but also omega-3s and omega-3 and omega-6, which you can find in flax seeds and eggs and oily fish. That will be really, really good for not only your skin, but your hair and your nails also. In addition to that, just making sure that you're moisturizing in the morning and the night like you would with your hands when they get dry, and making sure that you're not putting on too much product onto your skin as well, and just letting it breathe. Are they all the questions? Yeah. I'm going to dig into this now.
All the questions. So we've got today's winner, Samantha Bolter. Her question: as well as eating healthy, balanced diet, do you recommend any additional supplements alongside it? So well done, Samantha.
So congrats, Samantha. You've won yourself our hamper of loads of heart health goodies. So you're going to be in for a treat with all of them. I'm hoping I get one too. Okay, that's it. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and make sure you try out the recipe. If you do, tag me at The Food Medic on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and you can find me on www.thefoodmedic.co.uk. So thank you so much.